What is good, team? Welcome back to the improvement season vlog. It's been a busy couple of weeks since coming off the back of prep, just kind of moving back into like normal life. And I think obviously post-show, life just gets a bit crazy because you've got all the things that you kind of push to the side a little bit. So we're doing lots of traveling, lots of work, lots of life outside of bodybuilding. But that doesn't mean we've stopped training. It doesn't mean we've stopped working towards our goals. It just means a little bit of a change of environment in most cases. So if you haven't noticed, we're in a different gym again. We are in our third country in the last month. So we're in Berlin, in Germany, at a very, very cool gym. So if you are ever in Berlin, come and check out this gym. This is the Bunker Gym in Friedrichshain, I believe it's called. Any Germans out there, let me know if I mispronounced that. But what a cool gym. So this was actually Urs Kalecinski, IFBB Classic Physique Pro's home gym for his entire IFBB career. But man, what a cool space this is. So this is like old school hardcore bodybuilding, man. It's underground, it's in a dungeon. There's some really cool pieces of equipment here. So if you guys have been following the vlogs of recent, we were training over at Muscleworks in Bethnal Green in the UK. This is like the German equivalent to that. So really cool piece of equipment, really old school, but awesome environment to train in. So kicking off today, we've got upper body day 2. So this training rotation is pretty simple, just upper lower with an arms and delts session sort of tacked in the middle. And I'm kind of being a bit flexible with that. I might take an extra rest day, push that later in the week, or I'll do it in the middle between my upper and lower sessions. So kicking this one off, machine chest press. This is fucking awesome. This is a Nautilus Nitro press. Not many gyms have this anymore. I don't even think you can buy Nautilus anymore, but this is really, really cool. So a couple of warm-up sets here, and then I'll get stuck in. I think I've got like 2 working sets of about 6 to 8 reps. First set down there. Now, while I'm never a big fan of always changing exercises or using different movements, I am a fan in these phases of trying new stuff. So when we're in these sort of like transition phases between cutting and building and in the lead up to maybe a new build mesocycle, for me, it's going to be a long off season. It's a great opportunity to just kind of have some fun. First of all, I think that's the most important thing that a lot of people have tried, in the pursuit of optimal, have forgotten about. Training enjoyment is really, really important. So if you're in new environments, if you're in new gyms, if you're using new equipment, having fun and enjoying what you're doing will far outweigh trying to be optimal or perfect. So in this time frame for me, we're traveling, training at lots of different gyms, and I have the opportunity to use some cool equipment. So why would I not try some new stuff? Just because it's fun. And I think as long as effort is matched, it doesn't really matter. So long as you are getting within a close proximity to failure, you are progressing in some fashion, I think enjoying your training outweighs being optimal in most circumstances. Nice. All right, so that's 2 sets done there. And I've been eyeing off this gym Leco leverage press here, so I'm gonna go move into that. Not too dissimilar of a movement pattern, but it is very loaded in that length of position, which I really like for all of these chest press movements. So this one was more sort of mid to short and converging at the top. where this one doesn't converge, but it's really loaded in the lengthen. So arguably for session structure, it does make a little more sense to do the shorten stuff first, move on to the lengthen stuff, because we do like lose a little more leverage and a little more strength early on from the shortened position stuff, and then we can maintain a little bit more strength in those lengthen position movements. Like I mentioned with different machines about not being overly fancy and people getting too bogged down into like what types of machine they use and how effective they are in terms of hypertrophy and all these types of things, right? You don't need to be fancy, but, I say with a but, if you do have the opportunity to use some cool stuff, you can get fancy. And I think there are like tiers or levels to types of machinery, pressing being one of them. I've spoken about this before, but like this one, for example, being really heavily biased towards the lengthen position, and it does actually converge. So I jumped on it and realized that. But it's really, really hard in the bottom position. So it's one of those ones that's like, if we look at the sort of overarching theme of hypertrophy literature, there does seem to be more favorable outcomes when we're biasing more lengthen challenge stuff. So this being one of those examples, but it does also come with inherent increased risk of injury if you're not careful, because it does really load in the lengthen. You have to be mindful of your load selection because it's really hard off the bottom, and then it's pretty easy from the mid to the short, so once you lock out. So it does make it a little bit easier for the triceps as you get to the lockout. But it just means that when we do these movements, we probably want to spend a little bit of time in that position. So once you get to the stretch, hold it, hang there for a second or two, lock out almost all the way to the top. Don't rest at the top, just come straight back into that bottom position. So we do want to spend a little bit more time there. And you guys will see when I do this set, I'm really trying to spend a lot of time in the stretch, not too much at the lockout where I'm relaxing. I'm just trying to keep all the stimulus in my pecs. Oh, that is nasty. I think it's probably a common mistake I see people making, trying to chase load progressions or just lifting heavier in general. We've got to think about progressive overload doesn't just mean lifting heavier all the time. It is also the stimulus you provide to the muscle on an ongoing basis. So we can do that by basically adding more reps, adding more load, adding more sets, doing a combination of all the above, increasing workout density, reducing rest times. Like we can progress our training in some fashion in so many different ways. So doing things like just locking out and hanging out in that position where you can maybe do more reps or lift heavier or using poor technique or shorter range of motion isn't really doing you any favors, because at the end of the day, we want to progress in some fashion, but we also want to provide stimulus to the muscles we're trying to train. So if we're using pecs as the example, by hanging in that deep stretch, we're getting a really meaningful stimulus to the pecs. By locking out and resting, there is no tension on the pecs at the top, and you're basically just resting there and accumulating probably more fatigue, but you're sort of just wasting time and wasting effort where you could just be getting into more reps and then actually failing at the target musculature as opposed to just like failing by doing more reps, by changing your range of motion or resting more or doing whatever it is. So I think when you get into actual hard training, we're not just trying to lift heavier, we're not trying to do things in order to just lift heavier, we're trying to do things to challenge the muscle in the most advantageous position for hypertrophy. Arguably speaking, that's in that stretch. So for this, spend some time in the stretch. Two chest exercises done, onto my two back movements. So These were free weight movements in the program, don't tell Dean. But because we have the ability to use some cool stuff, I'm gonna try some cool stuff. So this is supposed to be a chin-up variation. This is like obviously a pull-up, a pull-down slash variation, but I'm just gonna do it on this machine. So I believe this is either the Jim Leco one. That's the flex leverage machine. So you can't find these anymore anywhere, but this is awesome. So I'm gonna do this with a supinated grip, so it almost mimics like a chin-up, which is really cool, because chin-ups are quite hard when you're heavy and big. So this is nice. Really allows me to get a really deep contraction and big stretch overhead, because this kind of pulls back and levers overhead, which is nice. So 2 working sets here, aiming for around 8 to 12 reps. All right, so onto our secondary back movement, incline lever row. I absolutely love these, and especially having the ability to use some cool stuff. Like I keep saying, it's like being a kid in a candy store again, reinvigorating that motivation for hard training. This is an old school Gym 80 incline lever row, which is fucking heavy and really cool. So probably do my last warm up on this, see how it feels, and then get stuck on my first working set. Sort of staying in that like 8 to 15 rep range for most stuff in this program. Just have a bit of variety in the rep ranges too. Get some heavy loaded stuff, get some lighter loaded stuff, which is kind of nice. And I think in terms of actual hypertrophy, that seems to be the sweet spot. 8 to 15 seems to be pretty good for most movements. Obviously, like more multi-joint compound type movements, we sort of stay in that like 8 to 12, and then more single joint isolation movements might be more in that 10 to 15. So I think it's nice to have a variety of both. But we'll see how this one feels. Oh, that's nice. All right, so to wrap up the back portion of this upper body session, it was single arm dumbbell rows, but because there's some cool Nautilus Nitro stuff here, I'm gonna use this. So these are my favorite sort of single arm cable row variation. This is awesome, really loaded in length and position, very, very smooth. And again, unfortunately, most gyms will not have this anymore. You can't find them anywhere. So while I've got the opportunity to use it, I'm gonna use it. So to wrap this up, I've got some biceps to finish off. So just for like ease of use and time, we want to go get some lunch after this and go do some exploring. So all right, that was 15 on the lead-in set. 10 to 15 second break. Try and get like 5 or 6 more reps. Six reps. So that is us done, guys. Berlin vlog done, upper body session done. We're gonna go get some lunch. I'm gonna do some posing really quick, but I might see you guys back in here tomorrow. We're gonna hit legs, posterior day, and some squats, so that'll be fun. But until tomorrow, guys.